do you mind if we talk about God for half a second? I made a joke at the front, but do you mind if we talk?
Okay,
are you just so tired of talking about that?
Yeah, fine.
That's all right with you? Good, okay. You know, because we've had a conversation on occasion on this subject, and there's a lot we agree on, but there's some stuff that we don't agree on. And just as I feel like we made progress on string theory and evidence right now, I'd love it if like you could convince me to see the world differently. I would love to leave tonight. That would be a wonderful outcome of this evening. And if I could do the same for you, well, I'm not going to succeed, but you know that would be a wonderful goal too. So here's my question. I hear you say that you would like to, and stop me if I'm saying things imprecisely, that you would like to rid the world of religion. Is that too strong?
That's not too strong.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, good. And so when you say that, here's my question. Are you saying that the structure and the history of religion is something that you just want to get rid of? Or are you saying that you want to get rid of what some people do in the name of religion? Do you make that distinction? Is that one that's relevant?
I certainly want to get rid of... Well, I see virtue in the effect that religion has had on human culture. I mean, I see virtue in music and art and things like that. But if we think of religion as providing an alternative idea for how the universe came into existence, how life came into existence, that kind of thing, then as a scientist I want to get rid of it. I mean...
Which I agree with.
Okay. Well, what part do you not want to get rid of?
Yeah, good. So, well, let me just give you an example, and you tell me where you come down on. Maybe that's the most straightforward way of doing it. So, you know, in Jewish, I'm Jewish, maybe a few others in the audience. Thank you. So not all, of course, but many Jews here in New York view their religion in the following way. They're willing to cherry pick it for the parts that enrich their lives. They're willing to throw away the parts that are archaic and just have no place, you know, in the modern world. They're willing to view it as almost poetry, almost as fiction literature, with the one difference being that it connects them to a long lineage that makes them feel part of a larger narrative. Is there something that you don't like about what I just said?
Oh, I get that totally. I mean, I have no problem with that.
No problem with that?
No. Because, I mean, you have a heritage, you have ancestors, you have literature, you have... I mean, it's the same as I feel, you no doubt you feel too. A connection with Shakespeare. I mean,
right.
You know, I don't have any problem with saying I have a Christian heritage, a Jewish heritage. In the case of a Jewish heritage, you have an even stronger reason, which is the persecution of Jews,
right.
Which has happened through the centuries, and perhaps most notably in the 20th century, but earlier centuries too. This is a very powerful reason for a kind of loyalty to a tradition. Where I part company with it, as you do, is where it makes claims about the universe and the nature of life and that kind of thing.
So when you say, just for my own clarity, when you say that when you agreed, and everyone sort of cheered, which is sort of fun, that you wanted to rid the world of religion, I wouldn't have thought that this would then be your reaction to my description.
Well, I suppose by religion I meant the scientific falsehood of religion. I did not mean tradition because there are the Jewish tradition and all sorts of other traditions, and tradition in literature, tradition in art.
Right.
I don't want to get rid of that.
So then I wonder about the following. So religion as as a word, a few 500 years old or so. It's not one that really goes back to archaic times. So, and there are some who have thought through the history of religious development and have indicated that the use of religion in the ways that you find utterly unacceptable is a relatively recent development. So if you take this structure that, go back a handful of thousand years, wherever you sort of want to, view its origins, 1500, 2000 BC, something of that sort, let's just say, does it not feel that you're focusing so intently on the last part of the development of that structure in a way that, at least as I've heard it, and it's different from hearing it tonight, which is very interesting for me, wipes it all out by virtue of what's happening now?
I'm skeptical of the suggestion that the scientific falsehood part of religion is recent.
I'm sorry, what?
That the scientific falsehood part of religion is recent. I'm aware that there are people who say that.
Yeah.
And I think they're wrong. I mean, I just think if you go back to the Old Testament, it would just be nonsense to say that the characters in Abraham and David and Moses and people were not interested in the scientific, quasi-scientific aspects of it. Of course they were. I mean, they were obsessed with it. They believed that there was a person called Yahweh who made the world and who actually intervened the whole time, who wrought miracles and things like that. I think it's Karen Armstrong who's made the case that the scientific part is recent. I just think that's not historically accurate.
So, but if one takes this metaphorical approach, as I was sort of describing it in that particular case, well, let me actually frame it somewhat differently. So, to what extent are you okay with, I don't know how else to say it, but irrational ideas? Can I just give you an example again? I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, I live uptown, and my mother lives over here, 81st Street. She's in her 90s, and I called. She's always home. She doesn't really go out without me. I called, the answering machine picked up. She didn't answer. I called again. She didn't answer. I'm starting to really freak out. So I get in the taxi cab, and I'm racing down to 81st Street, and I'm telling you, in that taxi cab, I was praying to God that she would be okay. And I'm praying to God, and I know that I do not think there is a God, okay? This is a totally irrational thing that I'm doing. Let me just quickly say, if you're there, I'm sorry, all right? If you're, I just got to hedge my bets, it's a conversation here. I'm just sort of saying how I feel. But I'm really praying, and when I got there and everything ultimately was fine, it felt like, a small miracle to me. Now, I don't believe in miracles. I believe that we're all bags of particles governed by the laws of physics, and there's nothing else besides that. But at the same time, I find it useful to hold these irrational ideas in mind at certain moments, and I don't give a shit that I do.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I think I'll make a similar confession. I would hesitate to spend the night in a notoriously haunted house. The faintest.
Oh, this is a good night, man. That is so.
But I mean, we're both being irrational, and that is a sin.
I agree.